All right, boys and girls, so today we're going to be going over lesson 2, which is arithmetic sequences. Before I start, just as a reminder, please feel free to pause the video at any time. I'm going to model a few questions. If you feel like you understand what's going on after maybe like one or two, then I would try a few on your own and then refer back to the video when you're done, just to double check that you're getting the correct answers. All right, do now. In an arithmetic sequence, the first term is 3, and the common difference is 4. What is the sixth term of the sequence? Okay, so I'm going to start off by highlighting arithmetic. You don't know this yet, but there's actually 2 different sequences we're going to learn about. Arithmetic is just one of them, so it's important that they give us that key word. It says that the first term is going to be 3, and I know that the common difference is 4. All right. And then it's asking me what's going to be the 6th term. So that's my question. What's the 6th term? So I know from yesterday in lesson 1, we had gone over that A sub 1 would be the first term. And I know A sub 2 would be the second term. I want the 6th term. So I'm going to start off by just listing these out until I get to 6. Because that's going to be my answer, the 6th term. I know that the first term is 3, so 3 is my first term. And I know that the common difference is 4. Since it's a positive 4, I know that I'm adding 4 each time. So I know that 3 plus 4 is 7. I'm just going to write that just for a little bit of notes. 3 plus 4 is 7, right? So I'm just going to keep adding 4 each time since that's the difference between each number. 7 plus 4 is 11. 11 plus 4 is 15. 15 plus 4 is 19. And 19 plus 4 is 23. So when it asks me what's the 6th term, I know that the 6th term is going to be 23. All right. We're going to just pick this up a little bit for today's lesson because you basically learned all of the really important vocab words that you need yesterday. It's just now we're going to take those vocab words and apply a variable to them. All right, I know how much we love our variables in math. Unfortunately, we got a few more to go. So let's just jump right in here. So an arithmetic sequence, here we go, is a sequence when you're using addition or subtraction to get from one number to the next. All right, let me go all the way there. This is going to be the formula that you're going to use if you're seeing an arithmetic sequence. You do not have to memorize this. Just like the last unit, exponential growth and decay, you don't need to memorize those either because they're on the New York State reference sheet. So I'm just going to write that here on New York State reference sheet. All right, so you don't have to memorize them, but you do need to know how to use them. So as I look through, I can see that n is a variable I'm going to plug in for. A sub 1 is a variable. I see n again. It's the same variable, so it'll be the same number. It's just in 2 spots. And then d is a variable I'll plug in for. All right, so let's start here with the first term. So a sub 1 is the first term. And again, you went over what the first term is yesterday, but a sub 1 is the first term. So this is more of like a refresher, like a review. I know that n is going to be the position of the nth term. So for example, here 1 is my n value. So that means I want the first term. If this was like in the do now, let's say it was 6, a sub 6 means I want the 6th term. So that would mean n is 6 because I want the 6th value. And then d is the common difference. So just like in the do now, how do I get from one number to the next? By adding 4 each time because the common difference is 4. So here the common difference is just going to be the variable d. There's an example underneath that's already solved for you. I'm just going to do it out so you can see exactly what you would do to plug in and solve. So the question says, what is the 27th term of the arithmetic sequence And then they're telling you that the sequence is 3, 5, 7, 9, and it goes on from there. So the 27th term is important. I'm going to circle that. And again, they're telling me it's an arithmetic sequence. So because I know it's this type of sequence, I know that this is the formula that I want to use to solve. Before we write the formula, they're just listing out all of that key information that I'm going to need to solve. So as I look, I know that the formula is A sub n equals the first term plus n minus 1 times d. So again, I can see here that n is the first variable that I need to find. Next is a sub 1, which is my first term. And then I see n again, but I already listed it. All right, and then d. And then d is the common difference. Okay, so if I look here, they're using brackets, which is also really important. If I'm just listing numbers, I don't want to use parentheses. That's only for a point or maybe like an interval. This is just listing numbers. If it's a list, it gets brackets. So now I have to ask myself, because really this is the question that they gave me to start with. Well, n is the value that I'm looking for. N is the position that I want. I want the 27th term, so I know n is 27. The first term is 3. So a sub 1 is 3. That's from my list. D is the common difference. How do I get from 3 to 5? I would have to add 2. How do I get from 5 to 7? Add 2. Do it again, right? 7 plus 2 is 9. So I know that the difference is 2, and I know it's an arithmetic sequence, so I have to use addition or subtraction to get from one number to the next. Okay. So now that I've listed everything that's important, if I go to step 2, it says substitute those values in. So n is 27. The first term is 3. N is 27. And d is 2. Don't forget, whenever you're plugging in for a variable, we always replace it with parentheses. That's so important. And then from there, I would just type this whole thing into Calculator X, that app that we asked you to download, just at one time. And you should just be getting the whole number 55. So now the 27th term we know is going to be 55. So just for extra practice, we just wrote it out in word form. The 27th term is 55. All right, flipping over to the next page. So if I look at example 2, I'm just going to practice what we just went over, like on our own now. So if I look at example 2, it says, what's the 30th term in the arithmetic sequence? -3, 1, 5, and then it goes on from there. So again, I can see that 30 is an important number. I'm going to circle it. I'm looking for the 30th term. It's an arithmetic sequence. That's huge. I know I have to be using addition or subtraction to get from one number to the next. And then they're giving me my list of numbers here. So since I know it's arithmetic, I'm just going to write the formula to start. So it's a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. And then again, as you read left to right, you're going to see what variables you have to plug in for. So n is first. A sub 1 is next. And again, but it's already there. And then d. Let me move this up a little so you can see it clearly. Okay, so I know that n, just as a refresher, n is the position that I'm looking for. So let me highlight that. I'm looking for the 30th term. So I know that n is going to be 30. A sub 1, you learned yesterday, it's the first term. So the first term is -3. And then d is my common difference. So I'm just going to highlight that as well. So it's how you get from one number in the list to the next. So I can see that my numbers are getting bigger. So I must be using addition. So how do I get from, let's do 1 to 5 because that's a nice set of numbers. Well, I know that 1 plus 4 is 5. Let's make sure it works again to be clear. So -3 plus 4 is 1. So it works each time, so I know that my common difference is 4. And now I just plug in and solve from there. So I'm just going to grab a different color for a quick minute. So I know we have a sub n, which is 30, equals the first term, which is -3, plus n, which is 30, minus 1, times d, which is 4. But don't forget, when you replace a variable with a number, you have to put parentheses around it, or the calculator might give you the wrong answer. Okay, so now I'm just going to type this whole thing in to calculator X and see what it says. So when I type that whole thing in, the number that I had gotten was 113. So I know that a sub 30 is 113. And another way of saying that in word form would be the 30th term is 113. All right? Both of these are saying the exact same thing. Example 3 says find a sub 41 for the arithmetic sequence 4, 1, -2, -5, on and on. So again, I can see that I want to find, this is really telling me I want to find the 41st term. Because just like before, I know that a sub 1 is the first term. So a sub 41 would be the 41st term. Let's write that out. 41 term. I know that it's an arithmetic sequence. That's important. So I know what formula to use. And then here's my list of numbers in those brackets. So since it's arithmetic, I'm going to write the formula, which is a sub n equals the first term plus n minus 1 times d. I know I have to find n, the first term in d, in order for me to be successful with this question. So I'm going to look back to help. So I know that n, a sub n is 41. The first term is 4. And it's arithmetic, so it's addition or subtraction to get from one number to the next. I can see my numbers are getting smaller, so there must be some type of subtraction being used here. So I'm going to say, well, how do I get from 4 to 1 using subtraction? Well, if I subtract 3, I get 1. So if I try it again, 1 minus 3 is -2. And -2 minus 3 is -5. So I know that it's working, so I know that my common difference is a -3. I have to include that sign. And now I'm going to go ahead and just plug in so I can finish this question up. So I know n is 41. I know the first term is 4. N is 41. And the common difference is -3. And then again, don't forget it has to be in parentheses when you're replacing a variable with a number. So I'm going to go ahead and type this into my Calculator X app. And I should be getting the number -116. So I know that a sub 41 is really going to be -116. And that's what the question asked. Find what this guy will be. A sub 41 is -116, and I'm done. All right, and then number 4. So number 4 is the only other way you would really see a question like this. If it's not in word form, like all the others, it could be in a picture form. And that's okay. Don't get intimidated. You guys know what to do. So I'm just going to start off by, instead of writing term 1, term 2, term 3, term 4, I know it's really going to be like a sub 1. That is the first term. A sub 2 is the second. A sub 3 is the third. A sub 4 is the fourth. And then I can see here that there's 2 blocks. So I know that the first term is 2. All right. Here there's 6 blocks. Next is 10. And after is 14. All right. I had counted them ahead of time, guys. So just don't think that I'm some over the top. I can just look and tell right away. You should definitely be taking time to count those boxes. All right, so now I'm just going to say A pattern of blocks is shown below. Assuming the pattern continues, I have to find f of 25. So you had gone over this yesterday. I'm going to just highlight this because it's the question. It's really asking you to find the 25th term. So you could either see this as a sub 25, or you could see f of 25. They mean the exact same thing. And right now, I don't know if this is an arithmetic sequence or not. I know in example 3 it told me. I know example 2 it told me. But it doesn't tell me in example 4. So again, that's making this a little bit more challenging. I have to figure out if it is or not. So I know arithmetic uses addition or subtraction. These are getting bigger, so I'm going to try addition. Well, I know that 2 plus 4 is 6. I know that 6 plus 4 is 10. And I know that 10 plus 4 is 14. So because I figured this out on my own, I know it's going to be arithmetic. So now it's okay for me to write that formula and say I'm going to use it to solve this question. All right. And now that I wrote it out on the side, I'm going to write what I'm filling in, which is n, the first term, and the common difference. So I know that n is 25 because I'm looking for the 25th term. I know that the first term was 2. So I know the first term is 2. And the difference was 4. That's how we got from one number to the next. And it was a positive 4. Now I'm going to go ahead and plug everything in. So I know n is 25. I know that the first term is 2. N is 25. And the common difference is 4 inside parentheses. Now I'm going to go ahead and type this whole thing into the calculator at one time. And when you do that, you should be getting, oh, I think I lost my paper. Oh my gosh. Hang on one second, guys. Should be getting 98, so sorry. All right. But the question isn't asking what's a sub 25. It's asking what's f of 25. So even though they're really saying the exact same thing, I want it to look like the question. So I'm just going to change this to be f of 25 equals 98. And that would be my final answer for number 4. Okay, moving on to the next page. All right, so now that you've gone over how to find a specific number in the sequence, we're going to go over just a formula that could find any number in the sequence. So as I read these directions up top, it says writing an equation given a sequence. If we are given a sequence, that means we can write an equation that can be used to find any term in the sequence. All right, I'm going to just go back for a minute and highlight. It means we can find any term. If it says any term, that could be like me finding the first term or the 4th term or the 100th term. You know, I could find any number that I want by using a formula. That's what we want to do, write a formula. So if we look at example 1, it says write an equation. So that's my question. I'm going to underline it. Write an equation that can be used to find a term. And again, if I'm finding a term, it's really any term. And then it's using this sequence right here. So sometimes they'll use brackets like we saw before, and sometimes they'll just list the numbers like they are right here. So I have to ask myself, well, how do I get from -6 to -10? Or -10 to -14? Because right now, I have no idea if this is an arithmetic sequence or not, because they didn't tell me. I have to see that for myself. So I can see these numbers are getting smaller. Owing $6, owing 10, owing 14. You owe more and more money. So that means you have less in your actual pocket. They're getting smaller. So now I have to say, well, how do I get from -6 to -10? You would have to subtract 4. And then -10 minus 4 is negative 14. And then negative 14 minus 4 is negative 18. All right, so I'm just subtracting 4 each time. So since I'm using subtraction over and over, that does make it arithmetic. So I know I'm going to use this formula in step 2. Let me highlight that. And since I'm using this formula, I only want to plug in, instead of n, the first term, and d, I just want to leave n off for now, because it's not asking me to find the 5th term or the 100th term. It says to find any term. So I'm not going to plug in a number for n. So n was usually listed. We're not going to do it for a question like this. So I'm going to plug in the first term, which is negative 6, and I'm going to plug in the common difference, which is negative 4. The n just stays by itself. And then if I look at step 3, now I want to simplify. I'm going to highlight that because it specifically tells me I want to simplify it. So anytime I see parentheses, I know that I should be thinking multiplication. So I'm going to not only multiply, but I'm actually going to distribute the n to the negative 4 and negative 1 to the negative 4. Since there's more than 1 inside, I have to multiply both. So now I know that n times negative 4 is negative 4n. I know that negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. That negative 6 just comes down. It doesn't go anywhere. And now I'm going to go ahead and combine my like terms. So anytime I have a number, I can always put those together. So negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. And then I just bring down that negative 4n. And then we're ready to go. That would be a formula, or really it would be a function that I could plug in for any value and find my answer. All right, so if I look at example 5, it says which of the following could be used to find a term in that sequence. So first I have to decide what sequence I'm dealing with here. So how do I get from 7 to 9 or 9 to 11, right? So on and so forth. Well, my numbers are getting bigger, so I'm going to try addition. I know that 7 plus 2 is 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. And 11 plus 2 is 13. So since I'm adding each time, I know this is going to be an arithmetic sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and just write down what that formula is, which is a sub n equals the first term plus n minus 1 times d. I'm going to go ahead and also highlight where it says to find a term, because that means I want to be able to find any term. So usually we list n, a sub 1, and d, but for this question I'm going to leave the n out because it doesn't say find the 5th term or find, the 17th term. It's any term, so I'm going to leave n. So I know the first term is 7, and I know that the difference is 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and plug those in. So I have a sub n equals the first term, which is 7, plus n minus 1 times d, which is 2. All right, and then just like in my steps from up top, anytime I see parentheses, I should be thinking multiplication. So I'm going to distribute n to 2 and negative 1 to 2. So I have a sub n equals 7, and now I got to ask myself, well, n times 2 is a positive 2n. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. And now I'm going to go ahead and combine my like terms to finish this up. So again, a sub n equals 2n. That comes down because it doesn't have any like terms. And 7 minus 2 is 5, a positive 5. So when I look at my choices, I can see that choice 1 should have been my answer. Let me slide that over so you can see it. Okay, and then we have example 6, which says the first term in an arithmetic sequence is negative 6, and the common difference is 8. I'm going to go back. The first term in an arithmetic sequence is -6. And I know that the common difference is 8. It says, what's going to be an equation for the nth term? So what is an equation for the nth term? So again, it doesn't say to find the fourth term or the third term. It says n. So since it's arithmetic, I'm going to start off by writing the arithmetic formula, which is a sub n equals the first term plus n minus 1 times d. All right. Since it's the nth term, I'm not going to fill in n. I'm going to leave that by itself. I'm only going to fill in what the first term and the common difference are, just like we did in example 5. So I can see here that the first term, they're telling me the first term is -6, and the common difference, which is d, is 8. And now I'm just going to go ahead and plug in so I can solve. So a sub n equals the first term plus n minus 1 times the common difference, which is 8. And again, I see parentheses, so I know I have to distribute. So I'm going to multiply n to 8 and -1 to 8. So we have a sub n equals -6, and now I got to stop. N times 8 is 8n. It's a positive 8n. -1 times 8 is -8. And I'm about to be done. I just want to simplify this because it looks a little busy. There's a lot going on. So I'm going to put my like terms together. So I have a sub n equals 8n just comes down because it didn't pair up. And -6 minus 8 is -14. So if I look back at my choices, choice 2, let me slide this back over so you guys can see it. Choice 2 is what's matching. Okay, please don't forget to complete the homework and make sure you upload the entire assignment so that way me and Miss Berg can give you guys credit. All right, you're doing great.